Assalamualaikum and welcome everyone to our video presentation by Group 3. In this presentation, we will discuss about two techniques from decision science in Islamic perspective. Now, before we start with our discussion, let me introduce the group members. In this group, we only have 5 members, which is Intan, Nursyuhada, Nazifa, Nur Ain, and lastly Sumayyah.
Now let's move on with the first technique.
I will explain how Surah Ash-Shura verse 38 relates to a decision analysis technique. The verse state who respond to their Lord establish prayer, conduct their affairs by mutual consultation, and donate from what we have provided for them.
This verse teaches that important decisions should be made through consultation, not personal opinion or guesswork. It promotes responsibility and informed decision making. In business and management, decisions are often made under uncertainty. Consulting others and seeking reliable information help reduce risk and improve outcome.
So the technique I choose is expected value of perfect information, or EVPI. EVPI measures the value of having complete and accurate information before making a decision. It compares decision made with perfect information and without perfect information. This helps managers decide whether paying for expert advice or additional research is worth the cost. Surah Ash-Shura support the concept behind EVPI. Shura encourages seeking the best available knowledge before acting. Similarly, EVPI evaluates how much uncertainty can be reduced through better information. Both aim to avoid speculation and improve decision quality. Therefore, EVPI is a practical application of the principle of Shura in decision analysis. For example, a company must decide whether to build a factory in location A or location B. Future demand may be high or low. By consulting an expert, the company can evaluate whether knowing demand with certainty is worth the cost using EVPI. This reflects decision making through informed consultation or Shura.
Second Quranic verse that supports the underlying concept of decision analysis is Surah Al-Zumar verse 18. The translation of this surah is, "Those who listen to what is said and follow the best of it, these are the ones rightly guided by Allah, and these are truly the people of reason." So, according to Tafsir by Ibn Kathir, Surah Al-Zumar verse 18 praises and describes those who possess true understanding and are truly guided by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This verse encourages believers to listen to several opinions and discourses. It also warns against making impulsive decisions blindly and emotionally. Lastly, it encourages comparing between each opinion's decisions or sources and selecting the one that gives the best or most favorable outcome. Now, let's move on to the important concept of decision analysis, specifically the decision tree method. The first concept is sequential and structured decision making. In decision tree, the decisions are made step by step, not all at once, and each decision leads to different possible future outcomes or payoff. The second concept is evaluation of consequences or payoff. In decision tree, each final branch shows a possible payoff for that path, and those outcomes are compared across different paths. Lastly, the final and important concept is rational selection of the best path. Once the decision tree are done and calculated, the decision maker will evaluate and choose the path that gives the best or most favorable outcome. Therefore, decision tree can avoid decision maker making impulsive or emotional decisions. So, how does Surah Al-Zumar verse 18 supports this technique? First, the phrase "listen to what is said" encourages considering all available options and possibilities before deciding. The decision tree can visually show every option and outcome through its branches. Next is comparison of different paths. This verse implies evaluating choices rather than accepting one option blindly. So, the decision tree allows a side-by-side comparison of different decision paths. The third one is the phrase "follow the best of it" from the verse, emphasizing selecting the most beneficial option after evaluation, which aligns with the decision tree where best path is chosen based on an outcome or payoff. Lastly is the phrase "people of reason" that highlights the importance of rational and structured thinking. In this case, using decision tree reflects wisdom by organizing complex decisions clearly. Therefore, decision tree aligns with the verse by listening to all possibilities and choosing the best path through structured and rational evaluation. Now, let me show you a simple example or illustration of a decision tree. The scenario is that the decision maker are deciding whether to expand his business or not. But if he expands, there will be two possibilities: high demand with 60% chance of occurring and low demand with 40% chance of occurring. However, if he did not expand, his profit will be stable and same as before with 30,000 profit. So, should he choose to expand or not? So, based on the scenario, if we calculate the expandment, we can see that it will give us the profit of 40,000 ringgit, which is still higher than the profit of not expanding. Therefore, the decision maker should decide to expand his business. So that's all for the first technique. Let's move on to the second technique.
So the first Quranic verse for the second technique, I choose Surah Al-Isra verse 35, where it stated, "And give full measure when you measure, and weigh with an even balance. That is best and give the best result." So this verse teach us to be fair, accurate, and careful when making a decision. It also reminds us that when we plan properly, we will get the best outcome. So I will explain more deeper about the meaning of this verse, which is Surah Al-Isra verse 35. It commands justice, accuracy, and honesty. So the full measure phrases, it is emphasized on precision and completeness. For the even balance, it refers to fairness, correctness, and avoiding excess or deficiency. So the accurate planning and fair evaluation, it is leading to the best result. So after this, I will show the example of the best result for this case. So basically, linear programming is a method we use when we have a limited resource and we need to decide the best way to use them. For example, we may have a limited time, money, or materials, so we need to plan carefully to get the best result without wasting anything. So for this slide, I will explain how Surah Al-Isra verse 35 relate with linear programming graphical solution. So based on this technique, it teaches us to measure correctly and be fair to make a decision. So basically, the constraint line show the real limit that we cannot cross, just like the idea of giving the full measure. For the feasible region, it shows the options that are allowed and fair, meaning they do not break any rules. For this region, we choose the best corner point, which gives the maximum result without the excess or shortage. So for example, imagine a farmer who has a limited water, land, and crops. The farmer may be unsure how to use the water wisely. By using linear programming, the farmer can balance water usage for different crops and earn higher income while avoiding waste. So linear programming helps us make balanced and fair decisions, which reflect Islamic value of justice and responsibility. So with that, I would like to pass the presentation to the next presenter, Intan.
Assalamualaikum. So the second Quranic verse for linear programming is Surah Al-Qamar verse 49. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Inna kulla shay'in khalaqnahu biqadr. Sadaqallahul Azim. The meaning is, indeed, all things we created with predestination. As we can see, this verse stated that all things around us have its own measurable variables. So, we want to get a deeper understanding of the meaning of the verse, according to Tafsir Abul Ala Maududi. So, the Tafsir stated that is nothing in the world has been created at random, but with a purpose and destiny. A thing comes into being at an appointed time, and then it takes a particular form and shape, and it develops to its fullest extent. And then it survives for a certain period, and then it decays and dies at an appointed time. So this is a universal principle that applies to all things in this world and around us. So this world itself follows this same principle. This world has a fixed lifespan and destiny that already been appointed. It will neither come to an end a moment earlier nor a moment later than its appointed time. It is not created randomly or destroyed without reason. So, how does Surah Al-Qamar verse 49 relates to graphical solution? First, linear programming is built on measurable variables and constraints. Like I said just now, everything around us have quantitative values, and within the measurement have its own constraints, which is their own limit. Next, the verse highlights that everything operates within set limits and proportions, which means that everything around us has limited resources, neither more or less than their own allocated resources. Lastly, linear programming seeks the best optimal solution while respecting the predetermined measures. As we can see on the graph somehow can illustrate this verse by showing a constraint, an allowed region, and a corner point that represent optimal decision that can be achieved inside the allowed area. So, how can linear programming can be used in real life? For example, there is a situation when a hospital needs to schedule nurses and doctors for one shift. The constraint is that limited total working hours available per shift, budget limit for wages, and minimum number of nurses and doctors required for patient safety. The objective of this linear programming is to minimize total staffing costs while ensuring quality patient care. By applying linear programming, the hospital can determine the optimal number of nurses and doctors that will meet the medical requirements, and the wage stays within the budget, and it does not exceed available working hours for both nurses and doctors. All these decisions are made within fixed and measurable limits if linear programming is used.
The third Quranic verse that relate to this technique is from Surah Al-Isra verses 26 to 27. In this verse, Allah commands believers not to be wasteful and strongly condemns excessive and unnecessary use of resources. The meaning of this verse from an Islamic perspective is that resources are an amanah or trust from Allah. Muslims are required to manage wealth, time, and manpower responsibly and moderately. And wastefulness is discouraged because it leads to imbalance, injustice, and misuse of Allah's blessing. We use linear programming when resources such as money, time, or manpower are limited. The main concept of linear programming are optimization, efficiency, and constraint. Optimization means choosing the best possible outcome, while constraint represent real-life limits that must be respected. This Quranic teaching directly supports the concept of linear programming. Linear programming helps decision makers avoid waste by allocating resources in the most optimal way. The use of constraint reflects discipline and responsibility, which are strongly encouraged in Islam. In this way, linear programming promotes ethical and fair decision making. For example, consider a small food manufacturing company that produces bread and cakes. The company has a limited monthly budget and only have 10 workers. If it produces too much, ingredient and money will be wasted. If it produces too little, the company may not earn enough profit to pay its workers fairly. So, linear programming will help the company decide how many units of bread and cakes should be produced to achieve the best outcome while staying within budget and manpower limits. In conclusion, linear programming is not only a technical decision-making tool, but it also aligns with Islamic teaching by promoting efficiency, responsibility, and the avoidance of waste, as emphasized in the Quran. That's all from our group. Thank you.